Ahead and get started. Thanks to all of you for joining our Blue Sky group that's supported by the CTSA. These groups are something we do periodically. We've done maybe a handful to up to 10 of them with the idea of bringing together people who have an interest in a common topic but maybe haven't collaborated before, or in this case, there's a new topic where we need to come together to investigate it. We usually do these with smaller groups of up to 20 people. Obviously, we're closer to 60 or 70 today, so we'll have to modify how we do it. What we'll do is start out with an introduction, very short introduction from Bob Gross, sort of defining the problem that we're here today. And we're going to have breakout groups, and we'll ask you to join the breakout group that is most interesting to you. To do that, we're going to use the raise hand feature of Zoom. So for those of you who may not have used this before, if you click on the participants icon at the bottom of your screen, you'll be taken to a list of participants. And when we call out the group that you're interested in, and Bob will tell you what they are, we'll ask you to raise your hands. Lauren will then move you into that group. We'll have about an hour or so for discussion. You'll be able to move into other groups if you so choose by leaving the breakout group and entering another, and Lauren can put you in a different group. And then at 3:05, we'll come back together for a short discussion of the next steps and how this group would like to move forward together. So for now, we're going to ask you to stay muted until we put you in the breakout group, and use the raise hand feature so you can identify what group you want to be in. With that, I will turn it over to Bob.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Blue Sky and Kathy, for organizing this. First question, I have a question for you, Kathy. If they want to move to a different group and they have to be assigned to that breakout room, how do they accomplish that?
So you'll be able to leave the breakout group, and then you'll have to talk to Lauren James, who will still be in the main room, and she'll be able to put you in the second breakout group.
Okay, great.
Lauren, is there anything you want to add to that?
Nope, that's how it's gonna go. So that's perfect.
All right, well, thank you. I'll just do a quick introduction. By way of my own introduction, I come here as an executive committee member of the research committee and co-chair of the research committee for the Brain Health Center at Emory. And director of the Emory Neuromodulation and Technology Innovation Center, ENTICE. And I put this together to try to bring together our vast strengths in various different areas across the city and beyond, into Athens and other regions of Georgia, even Mercer, to see what we could leverage to help to address the neurological and psychiatric implications of this pandemic. I'm going to share my screen now as best I can. Let's see. All right. Can you all see, just by nodding, the document I'm showing? Okay. So this I sent around earlier today, and I modified it slightly as some other responses came in. But I basically collated the responses from an email that went out to the Brain Health Center and slightly beyond a couple of weeks ago, asking what people's interests were. I went ahead and collated that in a spreadsheet that you may or may not be seeing as I switch to that, and looked and see what people's interests were, and then came up with some breakout groups that were tried to cover as much as possible these areas. Of course, there could be other cuts through the people's interests that might be more relevant, but you'll have the opportunity in the breakouts to raise those issues. The breakouts then in people's interests, and you have this document, I believe, came across as acute neurological effects, including stroke, as we've seen in a number of publications that have come out over the last month and a half about microvascular thromboses, strokes, Guillain-Barré syndrome, anosmia, problems with taste, and so on and so forth. So that's one area of interest. And I tried to collate people, but of course there were about half the group that I could not capture that went out beyond the Brain Health Center. So of course this is only representative, and I don't mean to exclude anybody who's interested in these areas. The second area was animal models, and including ex vivo iPS cells to study neuro-COVID. And there were a number of people that were interested in this, and people that are interested in developing animal models, ways to study this problem, and that's listed there. And that, of course, interacts with neuroinflammation and cytokines, but we have interests in those areas across both animal models as well as human studies. For example, William Yu is collecting CSF in acute COVID patients. So this encompasses both human work and animal models as well for people with interests in this area. Psychiatric and cognitive effects in patients per se was a great area of interest across all of our institutions, both the psychiatric manifestations as well as potential cognitive manifestations and other neurological manifestations in patients per se. And finally, another area of interest that arose was effects on development, i.e. on pregnant women and their fetuses that are occurring, as well as long-term effects on degeneration, with the possibility even of having Parkinsonian syndrome as arose out of the Spanish flu and other long-term effects. So some of these breakout rooms will turn out to be under-engaged, in which case I will invite you to leave that and join another room. As was said by Kathy, you'll be able to leave a room and join another room with the discussion already in progress at some point along the way. So we're at 2:10, so we will come together in 55 minutes back as a group and try to read out some of the outcomes of these groups. I will ask you, and it's going to be difficult for me to assign people to be the moderator, but once the group forms in about 2 minutes, if someone would step forward and volunteer as the moderator of the group, you won't have any special powers except to answer and direct the discussion as you see fit. And also, if you could, please, and take notes, and other people as well take notes, and then we'll collapse those notes together on an email to me and to Mark Daniel Gutekunst, who's here, who's my co-director at NTICE, and we'll collate them. Unfortunately, although this main room is being recorded, the breakout rooms cannot be recorded, so I'll ask you to write down your impressions and ideas then. And we'll collate this, and hopefully we'll come together again sometime in a short time and figure out what the best way to go forward to drive research forward. So at this point, unless there are some burning questions, which you can text, I will ask you to have at it. Break out into the rooms of your interest by raising your hand when we when each one of the rooms comes up.